Today we got something I was thinking I'd never see again. We have us a 250 lockup. It's a little bit lighter version of the 350. So we'll get going on this. I'm going to tell you right now, if I have anything to do with what we can do on this thing, we will not be rebuilding this. We always threw these trannies away and traded them out for a 350. I have located a 350 non-lockup, which is what we really need, because this is going in a 54, so there's no way we're going to have lockup. So if I have anything to say about it, we won't be building this. But sometimes what I say doesn't go. So 9/16 on the tail housing. Depending on the year of it, on your linkage and your cable, and on your speedometer, it could be 7/16 or 10 millimeter. This happens to be 10 millimeter, so that more than likely would have been a 15 and a 10 over there. This still has the early Babbitt style speedometer housing. Nobody ever swapped it out. So these are horrible about wear. This gear, if it's moving up and down like that, it's bad. And every one of these are bad. Always swap this out for a metal bullet. I would recommend that you always put a bushing kit in them also. Take your clip off your governor. Pretty well rusted in there. No big deal that it gets bent up. You can straighten it out. The seal is up in here anyway. It goes up against the case, sits up against here. Check your governor, make sure your gear is not loose, it's not all scored up. The head up here is not all worn out, and the valve's moving nice and free. On your speedometer here, it has to come off in order to get the output shaft out. I always use a pair of channel locks. And make sure that your gear is not all apple cord. ½ inch on your modulator. You check this with the vacuum gauge. Go ahead and pull out your modulator valve. Just scribe with a point on it. It's going to have to be pretty narrow. Get in behind this snap ring here. Cover, spring, and accumulator. Make sure your bore is not all scored up. Not an absolute have to do, but you have your band adjustment here, 9/16 on that. You can loosen this up if you desire, or you can leave it in there. You can actually get the band out without having to loosen this up. And I believe this is a 1/4 inch on the bolt itself. And let's see. No. Three-sixteenths. All right, 1/2 inch on your pump. Check your surface right here where your converter goes for your lockup. Make sure it's not all eat up. Make sure your stator shaft and your splines here are okay. Half inch on the pan. Flat blade screwdriver on your filter. Okay, different ones would have different setups, so make sure that you pay attention to if this was going to any pressure switches or anything, how it was hooked up. Should have gone ahead and taken off the kick down. S-clip for your manual valve. You can see that it no longer has an accumulator here, or it's actually a predecessor to it. So later on they put an accumulator here and they got rid of this band and went to clutches. So this is not going to come out right now. Probably going to need a narrow wall socket to get these out. Okay, we got all of our check balls are in there. The only ones that you have to have on the lockup is that one and that one. The rest of these you can leave out to firm up your shifts. This one here and the one by the modulator have to be there. If it's a non-lockup, you only have to have this one down here. Alright, loosen up the park. This could be 1/2 inch or 9/16. You don't have to take it all the way out, but you do have to loosen it enough that the park pawl gets back so you can get your piston out. They still have the filter in here. Always throw these things away. On your pump, you can there's 2 spots right here. They're threaded. You can use a pump puller on it, or you can actually get in here and pop your pump out. If it wants to cooperate. And it does not want to cooperate. Looks like we got lots of corrosion. These usually just pop right out of there. Seems like I've been getting a lot of vehicles with a lot of corrosion here lately. 204R I had. I like to never got the speedometer out of it. See, unlike a 350, we do not have a piston back here. We do have a bearing here. Could be bearing or washer style. We have a shim for adjustment. 1/2 inch on our pump. Check your surface here, make sure everything's okay. Check your bushings. I always put a bushing kit in them, so usually these have been out there so long nobody's ever put a bushing kit in them. They usually always need them. Make sure your gears aren't all scored up, especially on this surface here. You'll make sure that your surface right here is not all eat up. Okay, and we can slide our band out. Pretty decent shape, surprisingly. Not that burnt. Alright, now our drum will come out. And we can get our servo out. See, it slides on right there. Okay, we have a snap ring on our output shaft. Right there. A ring gear come off. You can have bearing style or washer style. It's washer style. Make sure that your pinions aren't all wobbling and that there's not too much play. This has got steel washers on both sides, so it's not going to wear out going this way, but it can with the needle bearings. And on the surfaces of your gear here, it can get all pitted up. Alright, thrust washer here. Make sure that your splines on your shell are not all eat up. No cracks, no wear in here where the lugs of the drum go, and your surfaces of your gears are okay. Snap ring on our center support. Alright, if the case is too worn, the lugs are going to be, it's going to be back into the lugs. So if it doesn't come out, there's a trick to getting it out. And you just get you a pair of snap ring pliers and get on that lug right there and push on the case right there. And then it'll shove back on it and it'll come out. Sprag's still holding and it feels fairly tight. If this will slide in and out, like damn near fall out of there, your sprag's getting to where it's getting pretty worn. This is looking pretty like it's getting that to that point. So we're going to put a, if we built it, we would put a sprag in there. Bearing here, could be bearing or washer here. We got a bearing, could be bushing or plastic here, and we had plastic, this little thing right here. So you're going to want to, on the plastic ones it doesn't do it near as bad, but on the bushing ones where this shaft rides on it, you want to make sure it's not all chewed up. You want to make sure that your input shaft is nice and tight in your drum. And a washer there. Pretty burnt here. Same thing on this planet. You want to make sure that your pinions are okay. Here's our anti-clunk spring for our sprag. And bearing here. Go ahead and check our clutches. I'm not going to take the drum apart right now in case we get to not build this one. Pretty burnt. Make sure your cushion spring's okay. Your steels are not too burnt. These are, although the clutches are pretty burnt, the steels are still usable. Get this out. Snap ring there. You can press that down. Snap ring out. Return spring and piston. here, compress it down, snap ring, return spring, piston. Make sure your cushion spring is not cracked. Same thing on your steels here. Those are too burnt. Those would need to be replaced. Alright, we're gonna leave that. Same thing on your case. You're gonna need one of these. Put these in the lugs of the case here, and that's where this sits, and it pushes against it. It'll press that spring down. You pull your snap ring out, and your return spring and your piston will come out. One other thing that we need to be aware of is down in here where your bushing goes. We'll make sure that it's not cracked down in there, and that it will hold the bushing. If it gets too worn out, it won't hold the bushing, and you're replacing the case. You can see right there the pork pawl still sitting in too far. The piston will not come out right there. So just move that. Now the piston will come out. One other thing you need to check is where your governor goes in right here. You want to make sure that that's not all worn out. Now they do make a tool to repair it, but finding somebody that's got the tool and the bushing to do it, that's going to be very practical, I don't think. Alright, hopefully we don't rebuild this one. If we do, we'll be back for the rebuild. Hopefully I'll be putting a 350 in this. You just reverse the order of all this stuff to put it back together. I don't know if I will do a recase video. I know I'm going to document all the parts because I'll probably never see another one, hopefully, anyway. So, one way or the other, that's it for this teardown.